because it shows the extent of diversity they're bringing into the communities they work with. They created the SODO Urban Art Corridor to work with at-risk youth developing artistic talents. They recruited over 100 new Friends of Recycling and volunteers to work in low-income multifamily housing projects. They delivered the first ever session on environmental justice at the annual TREE conference, that's Teaching Resources for Environmental Education. They helped eliminate barriers to exclusion by co-planning and co-sponsoring school days in the waterfront, which involved 200 Native American children and 500 Seattle public school children. They reach about 19,000 children in 58 schools, and they provided training and mentoring for the Summer Youth Employment Program. They've also, finally, brought us, and this isn't the entire list, 9 new adopt-a-streets in neighborhoods with high numbers of citizens of color, and they've sponsored 6 special litter cleanups in ethnic and low-income communities. And they're on my case all the time, and there's nothing that a department head could welcome more or be more pleased about than to have a group of people who are so passionate that they make you pay attention to diversity and environmental justice in everything you do. So,
how about we recognize the Environmental Partnership team? Denise Andrews, Tasha Bassett, Dee Brown, Ardell Daniels, Tashong Dionson, Teresa Hill, David Hunter, Mariachi Ignacio, Tim Liu, Heather McAuliffe, Anthony Matlock, Mike Mercer, Beth Miller, Pat O'Brien, Vic Roberson, Cheryl Shapiro, Robin Smith, Carlton Stinson, Alex Tonnell, and Jetta Wallace. Come on down. We have one more group certificate, and then we will award certificates and plaques to the individuals and the corporations. Now, this particular group came together to represent their community within their department and to be a voice for positive change. As a result, they've been instrumental in working on recruitment strategies, policy to prevent discrimination and harassment, and improved delivery of their own very important public service. Chief Sewell will tell us more.
Thank you. It is truly an honor for me to introduce this group. It's an honor for a fire department group to be honored here in this award ceremony, particularly for a recognition such as this in the diversity awards. It is a passion of mine that all people are treated with dignity and respect, whether we agree or disagree or are alike or disalike or whatever. We all need to treat each other in a way that we want to be treated, and this group typifies that I'm going to introduce to you. This group has promoted upward mobility for firefighters and administrative personnel by encouraging a very wide range of excellence in training and educational programs. They work to ensure recruitment of qualified candidates into the fire service and civilian jobs on the fire department. They're deeply committed to resolving issues of harassment, as I am, in the workplace and in the community. They're positive liaisons between the fire service and the community by providing support to outreach in areas of youth, multicultural events, celebrations, and by using their bilingual skills and their bilingual abilities, they're able to assist our citizens and customers with services and a wide range of information. Finally, they promote pride in their heritage, which brings a tremendous amount of richness to our department and the fire department, and are very positive role models for our youth. It is this richness of their heritage, of all of our heritage, that brings that perspective and those views that makes for better and higher quality products for our citizens, and frankly just makes the workplace a little more fun. And with that,
we honor the Seattle Association of Hispanic Firefighters, co-chairs Rosa Lopez and Ron Mondragon, civil staff Sonia Robledo and Francis Polari, firefighters Roger Bianchi, Stephen Costello, Richard Castro, Fred Dela Cruz, David Dumas, Daniel Gamboa, Armandino Gamino, Rebecca Gonzalez, Jess Hernandez, Marlo Luritzen, Clifford Maas, Roy Mason, David Munoz, David Pagan, Jose Alfredo Parra, Jack Reyes, Raymond San Miguel, Carlos Valdivia, Armando Zapata, lieutenants, John Barcenas, Michael Barocas, Arthur Converse, Charles Cordova, Marcos Diaz, Nicholas E. Ponce, Chris Quellis Jr., Max Vela Jr., Christopher M. Yob, Captain Raul Angulo, and Battalion Chief Raul J. Evans Ramos. Give them a hand. We're back to the last small group of 4 individuals who represent diverse heritages from across the world: Caucasian, Native American, African American, South Sea Islander. What this small group did had a pretty big impact on the entire staff at Seattle Center. Director Virginia Anderson will tell us more about them.
Thank you. It's always such an honor to be here and to hear these stories and to hear the incredible work that's going on in city government and the issue of diversity. And this next award that is being given, I think, reminds us that sometimes it's the big things that we do, the programs that are created, the years and years of work that go into them, and sometimes it's this personal commitment that someone makes, the small sharing of themselves with someone else. The people from Seattle Center, my colleagues that are being honored today, are being honored for making that very personal commitment. They're being honored for taking a risk, and taking a risk in front of about 150 of their fellow employees.
And to describe the efforts of your coworkers, your managers, your team, and just reading through those nominations is a truly inspiring experience. So, those are the reasons that we honored the heart and soul of Seattle's diversity, our city employees. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our mayor, the man who really needs no introduction, a man who's here especially because he is the heart and soul of diversity and believes in these kind of ceremonies and all the work of the city employees. Without Norm Rice's dedication to diversity, quite frankly, we as a city wouldn't be where we are today. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Mayor Norm Rice.
Thank you, Sarah. I am very honored to be here, and I'm also very honored to be here with Mary Main. She has traveled with me to many town hall meetings, and the next time I have a town hall have been chosen by their co-workers for consistently demonstrating the best of public service by promoting mutual respect and finding strength in our differences. I think your efforts to build upon diversity are reflected in our success as a city. And as I look around, I see city employees who truly do value inclusion, accessibility, and opportunity, and those values permeate in every aspect of our lives. I see city employees who work every day toward a more tolerant and a more civil society, and I see a stronger communities because of your work. As we approach the end of the 20th century, I think our nation stands at a defining moment in history because we are in a period of great change. Computers and high-speed travel have both brought us together faster than we ever could be, but in some ways it has driven us further into our own worlds. We have accomplished so much in the last half of this century, but we are at a turning point as we approach the next millennium. We are witnessing, once again, a rising tide of division in this nation, in this state, and in this city. As people begin to transfer responsibility from this federal government to states and to, hopefully, ultimately to cities, that transformation is not done in ways in which brings us all along from the bottom up or to get us all together. That transformation has been predicated on trying to single out individuals for the blame in our society. The legislation that is created is legislated to legislate against the stereotype rather than to legislate for what is the right thing to do and the best thing to do to make people to be included, to give people the opportunity to see their faces in the legislation and the programs that are being developed, to give people the opportunity to know that there is a place for them. That seems to be lost in this change of devolution and deficit reductions and balanced budgets and the like. Where are the people? Where is the assistance? Where is the hand that reaches out and brings people along to a better place in life? That was the hand that Dr. Martin Luther King talked about as he said that it's not in times of trial, but when we're at our lowest, who reaches down and picks up another brother or sister and lifts them to a higher place in life. What we are talking about, and what we really have to understand is that we all have to be a part of changing this rising tide of division. We have to really start to create the common community purpose to redefine and reconnect ourselves. We have to eradicate the intolerance in those who would fight against our freedoms. And we have to make sure that we are active voices against the rise of racial militias and the increasing political influence of even the religious right. In a nation that prides itself on the principles of freedom of expression and respect for all persons, we see groups using their precious freedoms to preach doctrines of suspicion and hate and for more violence. Over the last year, we have seen letter bombs attack our freedom of the press. We've witnessed a new spurt of violence against abortion clinics. We've seen arson that has burned our churches, and we've seen the proliferation of chat rooms on the internet fostering their own brand of hatred and violence. In the face of these threats, we as a city have chosen to reaffirm our commitment to diversity, and a commitment, as I said, that permeates all aspects of city government, from hiring to contracting, from accessibility to services to support of multicultural events. Our commitment is seen in the way we carry out the business of government and clearly tells all who come to live, work, and visit our city that we truly value diversity. It is the example that we set every day that puts the face on the values we cherish as a community. Through your efforts, we are building bridges of trust and understanding and opening doors of opportunity based on that mutual respect. That's what valuing diversity is all about, and that's why you have been chosen to be honored today. There could not be a more fitting time to hold this city, I could not be more proud nor more grateful for your efforts than I am at this very moment. And as city employees, you have chosen to serve the public. As I said in my State of the City message on Monday, those of you who have been employees of the city have endured an arduous journey. The reorganizations and the kinds of change in your life has made us all really just wonder, when is it going to stop? How it's going to work? Gosh, am I right? Well, I want you to know that this mayor knows that it is a time for healing. It is a time to pause, and that we all understand it's time for us to kind of come together in a way to recognize the great change that we've made and to make sure that everybody is making this passage safely. I really do believe that you're the best that you could ever have. I think that public employees are the best employees that anybody could match you against. And I think that you have chosen to serve. And through your efforts, you are building bridges of trust and understanding. So I really want to say to you that while I've made valuing diversity a top priority of my administration, you are pieces of the dream. Each of you represents that beautiful part of a mosaic that comes together that makes this city so special. Each of you brings not only your unique background, ethnicity, but you bring a perspective that has to be honored. And that's why we recognize you today. So I join with you in applauding you all. I come before you today to say just those simple words that sometimes are not said as often, but really are heartfelt. Thank you. Thank you for walking the talk. Thank you for living the dream. Thank you for making dreams a reality. Thank you for being you.
Thank you, Mayor Rice. That was absolutely wonderful. My name is Joanne Anton, and I'm going to MC the rest of this event. First, I'd like to introduce you to Charlie Harris. He's taking pictures. So as the recipients come up, please come on up, smile for the camera, and pose with your mayor. And Tony
And
Hopkins.
second prize is 2 pictures with the mayor.
We're taking bids for a third. We hand deliver applications to community groups as diverse as the United Indians of All Tribes and the Veterans Outreach Center. Her recruiting efforts for campers showed the very same determination. She established benchmarks to ensure that the camper population would reflect this ethnic makeup of Seattle Public Schools. She worked with school counselors and community centers to ensure participation from a variety of backgrounds. She made presentations to teachers and civic organizations and basically seized every possible outreach opportunity and then some. The results were stunning. The campers represented an ethnic mix that far exceeded the national average, which means more kids had a chance to experience the wonders of the Skagit Youth Camp. I say that's quite an accomplishment, Mary McKinney, and we honor you for it.
Done nothing.
Future public servants. Our next recipient is a rare individual who understands and lives the meaning of community. And because because she's so passionately dedicated to equity, understanding, and the concept of community, our community of city employees are all the more richer for it. A native of Tonga, she's an exemplary and successful employee of Seattle Center, but she is and she gives much more than that. She freely gives of her own time to help others, not because she has to, but because she is able to. She often serves as a translator for other Tongan employees, whether it's to clarify a simple scheduling question or to work through difficult and complicated disciplinary issues. More often than not, she looks beyond the black and white facts to find out what's really going on and works with all parties to find the common ground needed to find workable solutions. And because the problem at hand has been solved, she's been instrumental in heading off potential disciplinary actions. Your co-workers at Seattle Center think you're a treasure, Sami, Puloka, and so do we. Come on up.
One more. Didn't do it. Uh-oh. All right. Okay.
For many people, diversity is a way of life. For our next recipient, diversity is a priority in life. You might say that this is a lifetime achievement because he's been espousing the principles of diversity, equity, fairness, and inclusion for over 30 years. He works in Personnel's EEO unit. One of the 2 nominating letters we received talked about the trust he's developed with city employees because he never fails to tell it to you straight, no matter if it is what you want to hear or not. And that his professional expertise and personal perspectives have helped numerous employees regain their objectivity and renew their commitment to their work and to a system at which they may at some times contend. The letter went on to say that he's one of our most effective practitioners of diversity in the city. And because I work with this individual, I took myself out of the deliberations for the award. However, on a personal note, I'd like to add my 2 cents about his sense of fairness and inclusion. When I was first hired into what was then the Affirmative Action and Diversity Unit, he trained me to do the annual exercise of setting affirmative action goals. And as I was in the first throes of the training, I projected some numbers onto a department, and I had them all in the affirmative action column. He looked at me, kind of smiled, kind of laughed, took what I had done, did some erasing, put the column, put the two of the positions in the EEO side under white. And I was kind of, what'd you do that for? And he looked at me and said, what you did showed me you were thinking, showed me that you're aggressive and that you want to do the right thing. But what you did also wasn't fair, Joanne. Remember, EEO protects white males too. I think that that really describes exactly his devotion to equity and fairness for all city employees. So we honor you today, Primo Valenzuela. Our next recipient and his wife saw an opportunity to honor their parents, and as a result, they've helped many young people fulfill their dream to go to college. As a young man, he worked on the Alaska Pipeline, and he and his wife saved their money judiciously. They took that money and established a foundation in their parents' June 23, 1977 in Detroit, Michigan, the Co-Croft Weems Educational Foundation was established to award college scholarships to youth. These youth are generally from the African American community, and they go to youth who have demonstrated academic achievement. Currently, the Board of Trustees of the Foundation are members of their family, and the foundation is headquartered in Lincoln Park, Michigan. Can you think of a better way to give back to the community that raised you? These words say it best. Now I'm going to quote from their brochure. One of the main overriding purposes of this foundation is to reach beyond the educational institutions to explore the root cause of our failing communities. We feel that educational advancement should go hand in hand with ridding our communities of crime and corruption, plus restoring family togetherness to our communities. We are joining hands in striving to achieve the betterment of our children for generations to come and the enhancement of human dignity for all. I was totally blown away when I read that. We honor Charles Weems and his wife, Beatrice C. Weems. Okay, folks, we're in the final stretch. We have 3 awards to go. This next staff had no idea what they were starting when they started it. It began as a community learning lab run by the Rainier Beach Library staff, and now it is so much more than just a community learning lab. Picture this, 12 computer stations in use almost every available hour, over 6,000 hours of computer time enriching their community. This community learning lab is a smashing success. The library staff not only run it, but they make sure the community knows how to take advantage of their lab. They teach classes on how to work the internet, how to work their computers. They've even closely worked with Rainier Beach High School to produce a homepage on an ESL class called 10 Tons. They fought hard to get this lab up and running. The funding for the equipment and software was donated by Microsoft from its Libraries Online project, but wouldn't you know it, there was no funding available for staff coverage. But they were undaunted. This remarkable group pulled together and found a way to offer these services. This lab has brought cutting-edge technology to an area of the city where all homes may not have access to computers. And by doing so, they've leveled the on-ramp to the information superhighway for an entire community. Nominated by their proud branch team leader, Bobby Daniel, we honor and congratulate the Rainier Beach Library staff.
Production and broadcast of Salmon on the Brink is made possible by the subscribers of KCTS, with additional support from King County and the City of Seattle.
At Seattle's Thurgood Marshall School, students paint a mural to celebrate the wild salmon.
They help the earth and they help the water.
They know the salmon's life cycle and its unique characteristics.
Well, like their ability to smell their way home and the great distances that they cross.
They understand the salmon's special place in Northwest culture and its importance to the environment.
And what do you think will happen if they're no longer here?
That the water will be all dirty and there wouldn't be no more fish.
But will there be wild salmon for this younger generation in the future? Today, that question has a new sense of urgency.
The salmon are in deep trouble. It's the most significant crisis that this region has faced in decades.
Because Northwest salmon are on the brink of extinction.
If wild salmon become extinct, they will be followed by other species that depend on the same rivers, the same streams, and the estuaries and the wetlands.
It's a crisis so serious that it prompted federal action.
That's a really serious sign. That's the last resort.
We will not accept extinction as an option. We will not accept the status quo as an option.
And how we respond to this crisis is being watched closely throughout the rest of the country and into Canada.
Our effort to save the salmon may result in our saving ourselves.
On February 26th of this year, the National Marine Fisheries Service announced the proposed listing of the Puget Sound Chinook and 5 other salmon species as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. The potential impact is huge. It's the first time that a major urban area in the United States has been faced with a potential ESA listing. I'm Enrique Cerna, and in this half hour, an in-depth look at this salmon crisis. What's happened to our salmon resource? What is the potential impact of this proposed federal listing on our economy and Northwest way of life? Can we save the salmon? The small coastal town of Westport, Washington, used to promote itself as the salmon capital of the world.
National Geographic had a Washington State tourism ad, and the centerfold of that ad was, "We caught a big salmon at Westport," and it showed a young boy holding a great big salmon. That was the picture of Washington State given to the nation and to the world in National Geographic magazine. You couldn't do that today, and that's sad.
In the early 70s, more than 2 million Chinook and coho salmon were harvested off the Washington coast. But this year, because of dwindling numbers, less than 70,000 of those salmon species will be caught in coastal areas.
Without a doubt, we don't see the number of fish in the ocean that we have in the past.
As the salmon stocks decline, so do the economies of fishing communities like Westport.
In 1979, we had 230 charter boats down here. And seasons then have shrunk, and now we're down this year to, instead of April through October salmon fishing, 3 fish limit, we're looking at probably a 2 to 3 week salmon fishery in the month of August with a 2 fish limit. With our fleet, I think I counted 27 active charter boats at this point a couple weeks ago. There's not much going on.
Survival is difficult. Those still here look constantly for new ways to bring in business.
We now start whale watching in March. We lingcod fish, we fish for rockfish, we fish for halibut, we fish for tuna. We just don't fish for salmon like we used to. You know, I still love charter fishing.
Kevin Vassarino was 12 when he started working as a bait boy on a
I'm remember when I was a kid going 60, 65 days in a row salmon fishing without a day off.
And like many people in Westport, he hopes that something can be done to save the wild salmon.
Well, just the numbers of fish are just not out there. And who's to blame? You know, it's all of us.
What's happened to the wild salmon? Why must they be saved?
Salmon are a real keystone species. They're important not only to themselves, but they're important to other organisms that just basically build their life cycles around the life cycle of salmon. They're even important to the birds, the scavengers, and the trees next to the streams.
So how did the wild salmon get to the verge of extinction? 100 years ago, there were large numbers of wild salmon in Northwest waters. But even then, the resource was on the decline because of overfishing and habitat destruction. But with so many salmon still available, few people thought they would ever be in danger of disappearing.
I think we perhaps took our salmon for granted. We just assumed that they're still going to be around, and some of these declines were just, you know, abnormalities.
But they weren't. The wild salmon harvest went on unchecked. At the same time, Washington State's population continued to grow, impacting habitat. These and other factors led to negative effects on the salmon stocks.
People often speak in terms of the so-called 4 H's. The 4 H's are habitat loss, harvest, that is fishing, hydroelectric development, that is dams, and hatcheries, and that is the competition that hatchery-produced fish provide to or have with wild fish.
Population growth brought more construction of housing and businesses. Much of the building took place in lower valleys near the mouth of a river.
And the problem that creates for salmon is that they have to go through these areas in order to get to the headwater streams where they do a lot of their spawning and rearing.
Development and urbanization meant an increase in water usage. So dams were built to provide the water for homes, businesses, and farms. They gave us plenty of cheap electrical power. But the dams blocked salmon migration and killed many of the fish caught up in the powerful turbines. Growth and development not only damaged salmon habitat, but also increased pollution in rivers and streams. Without clean, cool water, salmon can't thrive.
It kept the pressure on at a time when we should have been backing off and giving the fish more room.
Technical efforts to manage and increase the resource fell short. Hatchery-raised salmon couldn't make up the drop-off in wild salmon stocks.
We kept managing right to what we thought was the limit of what the fish could tolerate. And what I think we've learned over the last 25 years is you can't always manage to the edge.
And on top of all of this, the mid-70s brought a shift in ocean patterns in Washington and Oregon. It was yet another factor in the salmon's decline.
It's basically a natural cycle that occurs periodically on a scale of decades. It takes place in the ocean. We don't know when that's going to go back.
Pete Bisson is an aquatic biologist with the U.S. Forest Service. For 20 years, he's been tracking the ups and downs of the Pacific Coast salmon.
In British Columbia, we have a few stocks that are starting to get into pretty serious problems. By the time you get to the state of Washington, now well over half the stocks are in jeopardy, some at serious risk of extinction. In Oregon, it becomes even worse, and by the time you get down to California, most of the populations there are hanging on by their fingernails.
With this ongoing decline of the wild salmon, the federal government decided to step in. The National Marine Fisheries Service took action by employing the federal law, which mandates protection of the wild salmon.
We have a statutory obligation to recover the species under the Endangered Species Act.
Terry Garcia is Assistant Secretary for Oceans and Atmosphere at the U.S. Department of Commerce. He oversees the National Marine Fisheries Service.
We have one goal, one bar that we're setting for the species throughout the West Coast, and that is recovery. We must recover the species. And I would just submit to people that when I say extinction is not an option, and that the status quo is not an option, that they need to ask themselves, are they going to be better off if the species goes extinct? Are their families going to be healthier? Is their land going to be more valuable? Are they going to be better off? I would say the answer is no. Salmon are an indicator species. They're like the canary in the coal mine. There's something wrong with them. They're telling us that there is something wrong with the environment.
This salmon recovery effort will be felt throughout Washington state. Nearly every watershed area will be affected by an Endangered Species Act listing by the year 2000. In Puget Sound, the Chinook, the bull trout, and the Hood Canal summer chum are proposed for listing as threatened species. On the Washington coast, the bull trout and Lake Ozette sockeye are proposed as threatened, while the coho is considered potentially threatened. In the lower Columbia River, steelhead and bull trout have already been listed as threatened. Chinook and chum salmon are proposed as threatened, and the sea-run cutthroat is considered to have high potential for listing as threatened. In the upper Columbia River, the steelhead is listed as endangered, the bull trout is threatened, and the Chinook proposed as endangered. In the middle Columbia River, the bull trout is listed as threatened, with the steelhead proposed as threatened. In northeast Washington, the bull trout is once again listed as threatened. Finally, in the Snake River area, the sockeye is listed as endangered, while the bull trout, the steelhead, and the spring and summer Chinook are all listed as threatened. Getting the public to understand the seriousness of this salmon crisis will be a formidable task for state and local governments as they respond to the listings. Governor Gary Locke.
That has major repercussions, because if we are not able to come up with a recovery plan that is acceptable to the federal agencies or to the courts, we run the risk of having federal agencies or a court in San Francisco deciding every land use decision affecting our state. And I really believe that the people in the state of Washington are up to this challenge and can craft a better solution and recovery actions than someone in D.C. who's unfamiliar with the vast differences of geography and terrain and environment in the state of Washington.
In the Puget Sound region, the proposed Endangered Species Act listing of the Chinook salmon poses a tremendous challenge.
Chinook was proposed because
I was using my 16-9 fingers instead of my 4-3 fingers.
I just get it to use my 2-3-5 fingers.
Yeah. Better exposure. want to take the last part of these because I think I finally got my exposure right in this. Okay, and now. Oh, really? Oh, okay. So we'll go from like the buildings to her. She's spotted me. Try again. Shot looks so proud of us, so impressed. If you wanted to sell over building this area, you got it right there. Pick one here.
Virtuosity and agreement to common scale. What is the scale in which we're going to play this? And as I said at the beginning, I think the challenge is to know where public participation is useful and to know when it's not. It's really useful in determining the theme, but it's not useful in messing up with virtuosity of people who are really brilliant. And so the challenge is to develop the theme collectively, but then empower people to take it and celebrate it and juice it up and elevate it to the maximum possible expression. In combination of those two things, maybe that tension that you were talking about, Gary, could be a little bit resolved.
Gordon, can I quickly ask you, is there a theme to Granville Island? I mean, what
what makes Granville Island work? Is it just a whole bunch of interesting uses, pretty compact, or did you set out to kind of say we're going to be a certain thing?
I'll give you two responses here. There was no question that because of the single ownership and the vision that was involved, once the theme had been established, that the industrial heritage and character of the island would be maintained, that the rest then followed. But that mix is still ongoing. One of the decisions made is that the island would never be complete, is that we would not determine all sites, all uses at one time. It was a clear understanding it would be 20 to 30 years before any such thing happened, and by that time the initial uses would begin to change. More interestingly, though, in a reflection of the idea of the Institute of Best Practices, prior to the development of the South Shore lands of Falls Creek, adjacent to Granville Island, little known this fact is that the city did put together a kind of skunk works of people who sat in a little chocolate factory and for about a year just basically worked through a lot of the ideas that were emerging in the early 70s. Christopher Alexander and much of that thinking was influential. And then the plans followed through and the island, the lands were built out. The hand of God, though, has imposed upon you the requirement to be visionary, and that is simply the consequences of a Nisqually quake and what will have to be done with the viaduct. You have no choice about that. It will be the fundamental intervention. It will be based upon whatever vision you come up with. Once it's gone, buried, changed, then you will have the palette upon which all the other mixes may be painted. That should not be too prescriptive, but you're going to have to make this very broad, fundamental decision. And in that respect, yes, absolutely. Good luck.
We just have time for two quick questions. We'll go to you, sir, and then you over here.
Hello, I'm Ian Robertson, a landscape architect. I've got a very quick comment and then a very quick question. The comment is, I think what we're after, as you're all describing, is a waterfront that isn't a watered-down front. The question is, how are we going to respond to the big one, not this Nisqually earthquake, but the big one when it comes, and how are we going to respond to its political equivalent, Homeland Security?
Depends what you mean by the big one. If you mean the very, very big one, you know, the subduction quake that will go on for about 5 minutes and everything comes down. I mean, that's, don't even bother thinking about what you're going to do about that one, because it comes around every 500 years or so. So, you know, it might be another 300, or it might be, well, in the next half hour or so. And then the rest of it, you're going to have to pretty much rely on keeping the buildings up until people get out. But when you come to the big one, you're just really talking about life safety. I don't think there's much you do in the way of trying to preserve the built structure beyond that. It's my understanding, certainly in the decisions we had to make when we were dealing with the big one.
I just note that I work for a very large engineering firm and so